Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel and welcome to this week's video where I'm gonna be reading the highest and lowest rated books in my TBR. I've seen some people do this video and I think it's so fun because, sometimes our tastes align with the ratings and sometimes they don't. And everything's very subjective because, first of all, I never rate books on how objectively good they are because, first of all, I wouldn't know how to see like if they're objectively good or not. So I just rate them on how much I personally enjoy them and how they make me feel. So it's definitely gonna be fun to see if I like the highly rated and if I don't like the low rated. By now I already know because I've read them. But let's send you back to a few days ago when I was choosing / seeing what the books were. Okay, so let's check what the books are. So if I go into the average rating. Okay, so the first is the second book in the series. I read the first last year, and this one is actually not out yet. So that is a no. The same thing for the second one. It's also not out yet. And then, okay, the third is The Way of Kings. So it's the first one in the Stormlight Archive series. And I really do want to read that book, but I want to do like a video specially for it, like with spoilers, like a whole reading vlog for that book, which is actually like on its way to my house because I have recently bought the first 3 in the series. So they are making their way into my house and I want to do a specific video for this. So we're also gonna skip this one. And the next one is a book I have no idea how to say the name of. Is that Awe? No idea, but that is the one I'm gonna go with. And then if we see the lowest rated, that is The Skeleton Tree. Okay, so we're gonna read The Skeleton Tree and Awe. That is how I'm gonna go with it. No idea if that is actually how you say it, but yeah, those are the 2 I'm gonna read. I think I'm gonna start with The Skeleton Tree because I like to leave the best, or in this case like supposedly best, for last. And yeah, let's get into reading The Skeleton Tree. So I really wish that I had a lot to say, but unfortunately I don't, because neither does the book. So I am 55% into The Skeleton Tree, and we are following a character named Wendy, and she is like kind of obsessed with a house that is for sale, but she is pretty sure that she will never be able to buy it. She will never be able to get it because it's just very, very expensive. But then she actually does receive some extra money that she was not counting on, and she does manage to buy the house. And so she and her family move there, and so that is her husband and their 3 kids. And also this is in the 1980s. And then she starts researching about the house's past, its history, and also someone from the family of someone who lived there before. They visit Wendy and they start also telling her about how their lives were there, like what happened, if they liked it. And they say that, the house might be haunted and there might be weird things happening. And also there is a whole other mystery that is not exactly connected to the house, but like the neighborhood. And that got me very excited because I love haunted house stories. And I was expecting this book to be that, but nothing scary is happening. There was like 1 or 2 things that could be the sign of something weird going on, but at the same time, they could be just explained as nothing paranormal. So nothing is happening horror wise. What is happening is that we are having a lot of family drama from Wendy, her husband, all their kids, and most of the characters are just kind of pissing me off, and I am just not really interested in what is happening. And so I just feel like this is not really a horror book. And the thing is, there are like paragraphs before each chapter, and those paragraphs are actually like spooky and interesting, and also the only times that any sort of tree is referenced. And even like the first one before the first ever chapter is really cool. So literally, like the first thing in the book, it says people talk about getting away with murder, but I don't believe there's any such thing as getting away with it. You certainly can't get away from it. It's always there, gnawing at you. Killing isn't an end, it's a beginning. And yeah, this happens in like every single chapter. And there are some that talk about a tree. And I'm not gonna say what it says about the tree, but it's like a spooky story about a certain tree. And I was, expecting those paragraphs to actually be related to the actual story that we're reading about Wendy and her family, but so far it's not really connected in any way, and I am confused, and I'm just not enjoying what we are getting. And I mean, I'm looking at the beginning of chapter 8, I mean, the paragraph before chapter 8, which is the next one I'm gonna read. And literally, the first sentence of that paragraph is, "The tree has haunted my dreams." And I'm like, bro, what tree? Where is the tree? Where is actually the tree? And yeah, I mean, these parts are actually, they make it seem like it's gonna be horror, but then it isn't. And I am very confused, and I am not having a fun time, basically. Because again, I feel like this book is just not what it says it is. Like, if someone is expecting to get like a family drama book, and that is something that they enjoy, they might enjoy this book, but it's just not something that I do like, and it's not what I was expecting to get from it. So yeah, I mean, I am gonna finish it. I have like around 100 pages left, and I will let you know what I think about this second half of it. If something spooky actually happens, if, we get actually a haunted house or not. I'm only 2 more chapters in, and I think I have a theory. I mean, I do have a theory of how those paragraphs before the chapters might be connected to the main story. I mean, is it actually a theory, or is it just me wanting that to happen? Because that would actually be cool and sort of horror. It is more me wanting it to happen. So we will see if, it ends up becoming something that is actually fun, but not actually fun, because it would be very like a horrible thing, but fun to read. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this. Okay, so I have finished the skeleton tree, and my theory was partially right, because like the thing that I was expecting / wanting to happen sort of happened, but it was less intense than I wanted it to be. And also, it was literally in the last page of the last chapter, like before the epilogue. So we didn't really have, first of all, like it happened so fast. It was like maybe the last 2 paragraphs, so it wasn't, we didn't really have time to feel anything, to, I don't think enjoy it is the right word here, because like it's a bad thing, but also enjoy it because it's a horror book, so I want bad things to happen. And yeah, I mean, it was in a way, like, I'm happy that that happened because at least it was something slightly interesting, but also it was disappointing that it was so little of that thing. And I mean, maybe what this book did, like, it did well, but what it did is just not something that I enjoy. And I will say it again, I don't think this is a horror book. At least it's not horror to me. I wouldn't like, I wouldn't categorize this book as horror for sure. And so I was just not interested in any of what was happening. I mean, it was definitely not the worst book I've ever read. It was not even the worst book I've read this year, but also I didn't like it. And I think I'm gonna give it 2 stars, and yeah, that's it. And also, I looked up how to say the title of the other book, and I think it's Away. So now that I might actually know how to say it, I am gonna read it, and I am very excited, but also scared because, like, it's the highest rated, and like, what if I don't like it? You know, I feel the pressure, but also I am very excited to read it, and I will probably update once I am halfway through, but if I have any thoughts, I will say them before that. So I will talk to you at some point. Hi. So, oh my god, my hair has looked better. Jesus. I did not get to half of the book because then I realized it is actually separated into 2 parts. And the first, I mean, it doesn't say like part 1 or part 2, but it's still divided into 2 sections. And the first one is Spring, which is the one I read. And then I stopped 43% in, and just before the second part, which I think is called Song. And also, before we get into any of what is happening or what I think, I just want to say that, like, my ebook cover, like, it's not it, but this cover, or this, I don't know what side I'm gonna put it on, but like, this cover, I love it. It's beautiful. And yeah, let's get into what is happening. So the first thing I want to say is that I realized that this book is literary fiction, which is not something I tend to read, so I got a little more scared even than I was, because I mean, I have read some that I have absolutely loved, but it's still very out of my comfort zone because it is slower, it is more like character driven, and I tend to like more fast-paced stories that have like a fast-moving plot, and obviously this is not that type of book. But having said that, let's get into what is happening. So we are following 2 brothers. And again, I have looked up how to pronounce their names, but I might still be saying them wrong. And I mean, I can barely say things in Portuguese and English, so, you know, very on brand for me. But we are following Arama and Taukuri. And Arama is, I think, 8 years old, and Taukuri is older, and they have lost their parents. And so Taukuri leaves his younger brother with their uncle and aunt because he is older and so he can like live on his own, but he thinks that his little brother will be better off staying there with their relatives. And we follow both of their POVs, and from Arama's POV we see that he is obviously very sad because I mean he has lost his parents, but on top of that he feels very abandoned because he doesn't understand like why his brother just left and like didn't take him with him and didn't come back. And so he's feeling very sad, very abandoned. And I mean, his home life there is also not that great. And he does meet a friend, a girl who's called, I think, Beth, and she's around his age. And they hang out. And I mean, thankfully, because that's the only time he actually is sort of happy. And then from Taukuri's POV, we also see that he's also struggling, again, because he has lost his family and because he like obviously misses his brother, but he does think that he's doing what's best for both of them, but he's also struggling a lot. And then we have another POV, and this one is from Jade and Toko. At first I was confused because I didn't really know like if they were gonna connect at all to the brothers' POVs, and I was confused. And also like the chapter names, they say like Jade and Toko, but at first we were only following Jade and I was kind of confused. And I mean, her POV was also extremely sad. And when I realized how I think they're connected, it became even more sad. And so, yeah, this whole book is very sad indeed, and everyone is miserable. And the thing is, I do care about all of the characters, so it's making me very sad as well. And so, since I do care about all the characters, even though there's not like a huge plot happening, I am very invested in their lives. And the writing is also so beautiful, like beautifully sad, but so beautiful. And so I am actually really enjoying it. I am also suffering, and I am enjoying the fact that I'm suffering, which I don't know what that says about me, but it's the truth. And I mean, I can't really say much more because, like I said, there is not a huge plot happening. It's just their day-to-day life and their struggles. But I am really liking the book because I am really caring and connecting to all of the characters. So I will read part 2 and I will be back to tell you what I think of it. And again, I don't think I will be able to talk about the plot at all, but emotions. So fun to talk about emotions if they're not my own. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna do that and I'll be back. Hi, so I finished Away, and first of all, I think I forgot to mention that this book is set in New Zealand, and the words, like names in other words that I can't pronounce, are in Maori, which is why I don't know how to pronounce them. Again, not that I know how to pronounce things in other languages, but anyway. And that leads me to say that I said that I looked up how to say the names, and I did, but I was still saying a name very wrong. And honestly, I don't know why, because I said Taukuri and it's Taukiri. I mean, it's an I there on the name, so I don't even know why I said that wrong, but I just want to correct that. It's Taukiri. But anyway, I finished it, and this book broke me. And obviously, like I said, I can't really talk much about the plot because there wasn't that much going on. It was just their lives. And I mean, there was a lot going on in their lives. And there was just so much pain in this book. And I just cared about the characters so much. And others I hated very deeply. But like the main ones that we were following, I just cared about them so much. And like the friendships and relationships they had were so cute. Like, for example, Arama, when he got in trouble once and like his aunt went to get him and she was saying, I came to get my nephew. And she was obviously not happy that he had gotten in trouble, but he was so happy that she said that I came to get my nephew, because like he belonged to someone, he belonged somewhere. And I was like, that is so fucking precious. And speaking of, I don't usually like children, but my favorite POV and my favorite character in this book was Arama, the 8-year-old child. So I don't really know what this book did to me, but it surely did something. And he was just so precious, and I just wanted to hug him. And I have never wanted to hug a child before in my life. So there's that. And most of the time reading this book, I was thinking giving it 4 or 4.5 stars, but then the end happened. And I'm not gonna say if it was a happy ending or a sad ending, because the whole time I was reading, I was like wondering if it was gonna be sad or happy. And I think it's better if you read not knowing what will happen, but either way, it was intense and I was so emotional. And I mean, I didn't cry because it's very hard, like almost impossible for me to cry with books. But I feel like if I was watching this on a screen, like a TV show or a movie, I would have cried. And also the fact that I haven't been able to stop thinking about this book since I finished reading it yesterday, I am giving it 5 stars. And even like before the ending, there were so many times that there was something written in the way that I like hit so hard that I literally had to stop reading and take a second because it was intense. It was so emotional. And like I said, it broke me. But yeah, this leads us to the end of this sort of challenge. Is it really a challenge? It's not exactly a challenge, but the end of this experiment, whatever this was. And for me, it definitely makes sense for Awe to be highly rated and for the Skeleton Tree to be lower rated. And I mean, like I said, it's definitely not, like the Skeleton Tree was definitely not the worst book I've ever read. Definitely not even the worst book I've read this year. And Awe, I wouldn't say it's like my favorite book ever, but it's definitely like one of my favorite books now. And I'm very glad that I did this because even though I obviously added these books to my TBR because I was interested in reading them, they were kind of like forgotten in there and I definitely wouldn't have read them, anytime soon if it wasn't for this video. And I mean, I'm mostly glad that I read Awe because again, it was so good. And I might even do this again one day, not soon because the books, I haven't like added new books, so it's the ones that are already there. And the most highly rated for me are always beginnings of series. Like this was the only exception. And I mean, I don't feel like starting a series for one of these videos, so we're gonna try to wait until we have like a standalone book there. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun to see if my opinions align with the ratings or if they're completely different. Because I mean, I have liked books that were lower rated and I have disliked books that were highly rated. So, in this case they aligned, but if I did this again, maybe they would not. And yeah, that is it. That is everything for this video. It was definitely fun, like I said. And I hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a like and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time. Bye!